let's talk about the Final Four. Let's just jump in. We'll do it and talk through it. It truly was
fun.
I honestly can't remember a Final Four with like 2 back-to-back better games. Like, I feel like one of them is typically a sinker. Just in my head, it's the first one is often like a 20-point game. I think back to like the Michigan State, Oklahoma one. The one featuring Buddy Hield is like the one that I think about all the time in regard to this. And I was really excited that we got 2 great games. I think that we have to start with Houston and Duke.
Okay.
Because that was one of the worst situations I've seen in a while. It kind of was a choke. There's not I think that we're fine just calling this a choke from Duke. It was what it was, right? They were up 9 with 2 minutes left. I think they were up 6 and had the ball with like a minute left. And Houston still came back and won. They were up 14, I think, at one point in the second half, like fairly late in the second half.
So I was just looking through it. There's a 59-45 after Tyrese Proctor makes a free throw at 8:17.
Yeah.
And then Cryer immediately bangs a 3 to make it 11. And then there's a TV timeout. And then it's 10 and then 8 and then 6 and then on down to what you are talking about.
Yeah. And I think that there were 4 things that happened here. Honestly, there's more than 4 things that happened here. There might be like 6 or 7. But the first thing for me, at least in terms of the comeback, like we'll talk about the greater context, like Kamen Maluach, like being terrible throughout the game was honestly probably Duke's biggest problem. But first and foremost, I thought the guard play down the stretch for Duke was terrible. I thought it was just genuinely really bad. You had a turnover from Tyrese Proctor. What was that? That was around like the 1.5 mark, 2 minute mark, somewhere in that vein. He goes down. He misses that free throw, the 1-and-1. Zion James like could not inbound the ball. That was like a total catastrophe to me. It felt like they never really figured out, like they never figured out the guards how to like understand and dictate the tempo of the game. They really struggled with the pressure from Houston down the stretch to me. I think you can point a little bit to John Shire. Like I feel okay doing that. I'm someone who's like a massive Shire fan. I think he's done a really great job this season by and large with, figuring out how to run the right actions at the right time. I felt like they went into their shell right around that 8-minute mark and really tried to slow the game down instead of continuing to try to score. I felt like they didn't, instead of just running their offense, I felt like they tried to slow it down. And part of what happens when you slow the game down, like people will just say that, slow the game down. And like, what does that mean? Right. Well, what happens when you slow the game down is that you shrink the shot clock on yourself, obviously while you're burning time from your opponent. You shrink the shot clock on yourself, which just gives you less time to run more secondary actions after the team obliterates your primary action, right? So all Houston really had to do, it felt like, was stop their primary action. And then they were okay. And then Duke didn't do anything beyond the primary. I hate when teams do this. It drives me completely insane. The third thing, and this is where we're going to start giving credit to Houston. Houston was just nails down the stretch. They were fantastic. I thought that JoJo Tugler, outside of that moment where he got his arm stuck in Zion James while James was inbounding the ball, I thought that he was unbelievable on defense in the final 5 minutes of this game. He was incredible for Houston. I thought that Jaywan Roberts throughout the game was amazing. He just embodies so much of Houston's physicality and strength and just what they're about as a program. He was great defensively on Cooper Flagg. Tugler did a good job on Flagg as well in the possessions where they got matched up. I thought that those two did an amazing job defensively. The guards were pretty good as well at just kind of gumming up what Duke's perimeter players were trying to do as well. Emmanuel Sharp was amazing down the stretch. He had 9 points, I think, in like the final 2 minutes of this game. He was huge, hit some massive shots. J1 Roberts obviously hits 2 free throws. It felt like a younger team of 18-year-olds against a team of 23-year-olds to me that had been there and that had dealt with it before. And then finally, like, it's fine with me to talk about the officiating. I didn't think this was a particularly well officiated game. I didn't think it was particularly, well officiated going toward Duke. The over the back call on Cooper Flag is absolutely bananas to me when you're letting Houston get away with murder on the perimeter. And it's fine. Like, I'm okay with Houston getting away with murder in general. Like, I'm fine with them playing a very physical brand of basketball and playing that style of defense. But you can't then start hitting Duke for these kind of ticky-tack fouls, with the primary one being the really terrible over-the-back call on Cooper Flag. There was also the Mason Gillis call as well. Like, there were some few things that kind of went against Duke there from the officiating, but that's how this 64-55 game, where Duke is up 9 with 2 minutes left, turns into a 70-67 loss. That, like, Shire's gonna have a tough time, I think, coming back from that one. That was a tough one.
Yeah, my thing with the foul is I think it also kind of cheated us out of just what could have been a really fun actual offensive possession, right? I think Houston was still going to end up with that rebound, even though Flag got his hand on it. And I think that's another reason why it didn't need to be called. Like, I'm pretty sure, someone might correct me if I was wrong, but I'm pretty sure that Houston still was going to come down with it. Either way, it doesn't matter. Even if Duke was going to come down with it, I still think it was a bad call, but it just would have been a fun offensive possession with Houston having all the momentum. Down 1, can they go execute and get a bucket? Now, Roberts making both of those is really impressive, but yeah, I usually don't get into the officiating as well. That's probably the one like call that stood out the most. There was one in the Florida game where I think, was it Houck had a block that like wasn't even,
oh my God. We'll talk about the Tony Padilla show in the other game. That was a disaster.
But yeah, to the Emmanuel Sharp point, 2:05, they're down by 9. He makes a layup. I think this was one where he actually attacked Cooper Flag and got downhill. 30 seconds later, makes 2 free throws. 13 seconds later, he makes 2 more free throws. And then 45 seconds later, he makes a huge 3 that puts him within 3. Like, that's a huge stretch of 2-ish minutes, like not even, of basketball on the offensive end from Emmanuel Sharp. And again, not to get into both games, but I told someone this morning, what stood out to me as the biggest thing was the guard play, the veteran guard play for the teams that won in these games. LJ Cryer played 40, had 26 points, 6 of 9 from 3, and only had 1 turnover, even though he only had 1 assist. And I'm sure we'll talk about Walter Clayton Jr. when we talk about that Florida game. And I was talking to this person in the context of the transfer portal. How do you win big in college basketball now? And I realized that, both of those guys are transfers, right? Cryer started at Baylor and Walter Clayton Jr. started at Iona. If I'm a team going out into the NIL world and I want to win a national championship, I'm looking for the best veteran guard, like 3rd year, 4th year guard I can get to bring to my team based on what we just saw from those 2 guys. But specifically, those guys' ability to make jump shots, Sam. Like, I don't know how it translates to the NBA. We'll talk about that with Walter Clayton Jr. for sure. But in college hoops, when you have a guard like those 2 guys, it gives you a chance every single game. And then, like you said, I do kind of like the toughness that Houston plays with. Like, they're just physical. They're diving on and I thought Duke matched it for a lot of the game. But Houston just never backed down. And I love what Cryer said at the end of the game. I was talking to a KU fan actually this morning, and they made the same reference. Houston did this to Kansas during the middle of the season. I believe it was in Allen Fieldhouse even. So when you've been there, you've had the experiences, even though it's on a much bigger stage, you still feel like you have the ability to do it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's right. Like, you look at the transfer portal right now, UCLA going out to get Donovan Dent. Obviously, Iowa bringing in Bennett Sturts. UConn, the big one here, getting Silas DeMary. Like, those are old guards that know how to play, right? So I hate doing this to Houston because it's exactly what Houston fans, I'm sure, are frustrated by. But I do have to talk more about Duke here.
Sure.
And just because look, like we care more about the NBA,
but,
right? And
real quick though, I loved what Sampson said, and he did it. Here's what I appreciated about Sampson as somebody from a low major conference in Division I. I played in the Patriot League, low major. Like he didn't. You could tell when he made that quote that some lower major conferences were running through his head, and he was like, "Don't say it, don't say it." And then he said some random the toy poodle league or whatever, and then he shouted out his Big 12 brethren. Like I really like that quote from him. He
well, I took it straight up as a shot at the ACC.
Well, I didn't know about that, but sure. I just took I appreciate he gave Duke love, but also said hey, we're still here. We didn't play in we played in the Big 12 and we were really good. Almost like you should have respected us more instead of doubting us. But I just thought that quote was funny because you could see him don't say one of these don't say Patriot League, don't say Ivy League, don't say it.
Okay. So I want to start with Cooper. Cooper was great in this game.
Yep.
I have very few complaints with Cooper. Outside of the final shot, right? And honestly, he got a clean look at it. He just short-armed it.
He missed short. You know what I mean? What? I was joking, obviously, at the top, but I'm he missed short, and he was really good. I'll be honest. My biggest negative from that game is, and this is from my recent deeper dive. I'm starting to question how high the on-ball defensive upside is with Cooper, but that's nitpicking how incredibly high this is.
We've been talking about that the whole year, though. And I think we saw that throughout the course of this game. There were a couple times where he got just straight up beat.
Yep.
He is best roaming around defensively.
Agreed,
That's
100%.
He is so good at understanding how to cut off angles in help defense. I think that he stands very high in his stance and is not great at cutting off guys on the ball.
Agreed.
To me, I don't know if he's going to be an all defense guy. I think he's going to be a really plus defender, a very valuable defender, almost in the Jason Tatum-y mold. That is what it reminds me of a little bit, but he'll probably create more action plays, block steals than what Tatum does at the end of the day. So maybe he will end up kind of just getting the votes to do it. But on the ball, there are real worries. I agree with you.
Okay, as Aaron Gordon's never made an all defense team, but I think we think he's a quality defender.
Yep.
Off ball, that was, if there was one thing I said from an NBA draft perspective that I took away, the missed shot had nothing to do with it. There was some creation things. I thought the jump shot in general looked really good. And I went, man, he's kind of gotten beat off the bounce a few more times than I would like. And I've landed in the same spot on him defensively as you. Those were my big takeaways for him.
And we say this, and he still had 5 stocks in this game. You know what I mean?
It's nitpicky, but we're talking face of the franchise, all NBA level, number 1 pick stuff. That's how we have 100%. To evaluate this player.
Yeah. So 27 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals, 3 blocks.
Only one turnover.
Game. Caught to the line 8 times.
I say perfect from the free throw line.
Yeah, it was a ridiculous game. I thought Con was great, especially in the first half. 16 points, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, 0 turnovers, 5 for 9 from the field. I feel like Shire's biggest, the critique I have most from him, you know what I mean, is I thought he went away from Con. And I think Houston deserves credit. I think those defenders did a really, really good job on Con. I also think that Shire didn't really run many primary actions to try and get him involved more late in the game. And that's what I think I would have preferred to see, even more than the Cooper stuff. Why I feel like we didn't see any 4-3 ball screens with Con and Cooper, where Con is the screener. Right? That would have been an awesome, fun action to run. Maybe there was a couple that I can't remember off the top of my head, but I feel like they didn't do a ton of that, to be honest, this year throughout, what we saw. So I feel like there were some missed opportunities to get Con involved. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action with over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings. Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. On Prize Picks, you can mix and match player projections from different sports. You can combine your favorite basketball players with players from baseball, with college basketball players, with whoever you want to pick to go over or under their points, their goal total, their RBI total for the day. Whatever you want to do, you can do it at Prize Picks. We love Prize Picks here at Game Theory because of how easy they make it to get real money sports action. The second half of the basketball season is here. The NBA playoffs are just weeks away, and it's really, really exciting because it gives you ample opportunity to sit down and to get some real money action on the games. If you think LeBron is going to go crazy here as the Lakers try to get rolling here into the playoff push, if you think Giannis is going to have to go bonkers now with Damian Lillard out of the lineup in order to get the Bucks over the line, you can cook up the hot takes with your friends and you can win real money this basketball season when you and your crew run your game on Prize Picks. Look, we love Prize Picks here. Really important sponsor for us. We adore them. Please go sign up and download that app today. Use the code Game Theory to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Download the app today and use the code Game Theory to get $50 instantly when you play that first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. The guards, we talked about them, Tyrese Proctor, Zion James. Zion is in this draft. My guess is he'll be on a two-way next year. Tyrese Proctor has a real decision to me. Like, I will be interested to see what Proctor does. I think that he would probably go in the top 45. I'm just not totally sure, what that will look like at the end of the day, because part of the narrative now, unfortunately, with Proctor is that he does do this in big games and in big moments and struggles in these moments from time to time. He had the great start to the tournament, and he unfortunately has had a few moments like this in the tournament throughout his career where he's just kind of disappeared. The big one we have to talk about is Common Malawash. So I want to say up front, there was obviously a, report from Marco Rubio's desk that people from South Sudan that are on visas in the United States are going to, likely be, displaced in some respect, or anyone that is applied for a visa from the South Sudan, those visas are now canceled. I don't know if Maluwatch saw that before the game. I have no idea. I want to at least give him some real grace in this moment because I don't know what's happening there. I've talked to a lot of people about this situation. It seems incredibly complicated as we kind of go through this. I'm very interested to see what happens with this whole thing. I don't feel super comfortable talking about the conversations I've had yet because it's a very delicate matter. Having said that, he was really bad last night. And I kind of think it's on Shire for continuing to play him when he was egregiously bad last night. There's just not another way to put it. He is 7'1" with a 7'6" wingspan and a 9'5" standing reach. And he had 0 rebounds against a Houston team where the entire thing you have to do against Houston is defensive rebound. I get it that he has very high hips, and we'll talk about these as issues as we go through this conversation. I get it that he has not a lot of lower body strength right now. You can't get moved around in the way that he did. Do you know what the plus minus numbers were from him yesterday, Bryce?
I don't. So 21 minutes. They lost by probably -8, -10.
He was a -20.
Oh, wow.
They lost his minutes by 20 points when he was on the court. And this is something that we're not just saying now that Duke lost. I tweeted it in the first half that whenever they did that big 5-for-5 line change and him and Cooper came back after it was an 11-point lead or something, and Houston made that call or made that little run to bring it back. I think it was maybe they got it 26 or 26 to 22 or something. I literally tweeted, okay, now that Maluwatch is on the court, they're starting to own the defensive glass, or they're starting to own the offensive glass against Duke right now. Malawach like needs to figure out how to like anchor and deal with this. And he just never did. It was so obvious watching the game that he was just nowhere near there for this. He was not ready for the physicality. He got moved off of his spots everywhere. I don't think he read the ball off the rim all that well. Oh, by the way, like it's not like he was hammering them on offense either. Like he had one make, he had that, I think Cooper hit him on a roll early in the second half where he threw down and made a free throw after on an and one. I mean, like people can say, oh my God, it's Houston. Like they're so physical. NBA teams don't play like this. What the fuck happens when he runs into a Rudy Gobert? What happens when he runs into a Domantas Sabonis or a Ivica Zubac or like
Isaiah Stewart, like who's a backup center in the NBA? Like maybe not every night, but the NBA is a physical league, especially in that area of the floor, Sam. Right? Like in that area of the floor, in that realm. Sure. Do maybe they box out as no, they don't box you out. Know what they do? They two-hand shove you in the back whenever they're out of position, and you get it called one out of every 5 times. But listen, I was as high on Common as anybody coming into the year. And again, I'm going through my deep dives right now, and I came away like, I'm getting into your realm of quote unquote low on him, because the thing is, I don't trust him to consistently catch the ball. And that's not just on lobs. It shows up all the time on rebounds, or he, as like you pointed out, not reading the ball off the rim, or like he just gets it tipped away because he doesn't get his hands there quick enough, or he doesn't get off the floor quick enough. And it showed out in this game. And listen, I will give him grace, because as a teacher, I understand that when you're dealing with stuff in your life, you can't always focus on things the way you want to. And I'm talking about my students. Like I try to give them grace when I know there's this, that, or whatever. So
and I don't know if he knew that. Like I want to be clear. Like I don't know what he knew before the game or whatever.
We're not saying, but if he did, I would understand where his mind could potentially be in a different place. And I would give him a lot of grace. All I will say is some of the major negatives or issues we saw in that game are quite honestly things we've seen all season long, and things that have been in the scout all season long. And they just kind of got exacerbated by that Houston team that was, they are super physical. Tugler is really, like to your point, there's going to be a lot of physical, like bigs with length and athleticism. And it just makes me a little bit nervous with him.
Literally, so I'll just read you guys like the draft guide profile. I've written most of Malawach's already. In that vein, the biggest point of concern that I have with Malawach is his hand-eye coordination. Grew up playing soccer, so his footwork is actually advanced for someone who is as big as he is at this age, but hand-eye coordination is not there yet, and it impacts multiple parts of his game. Doesn't really have particularly strong hands. Had multiple moments this year where he'd have the ball ripped away from him, either after he brought it down or before he fully controlled it. Big guys with tools and questionable hands have a higher bust rate than most, going from late arrivals to basketball like Sayer, Sene, and Alexis Ajinça to even 5-star players like James Wiseman. Malawach at this stage lacks the general coordination that he will need to continue to work on it throughout his first years in the NBA. Malawach, the hands impact, what is my biggest worry for him. Malawach does not control the defensive glass all that well right now. Average just 3.4 defensive rebounds per game. I wrote this, however long ago, probably, honestly, I might have written this like 3 weeks ago. Opposing teams grabbed offensive rebounds 4% more often when Malawach was on the court versus when he was off the court. Gets pushed around on the interior because of that high center of gravity. Guys can push him underneath the rim and get him out of rebounding position. Also just doesn't seem to read the ball off of the rim well. I mean, like I wrote that God knows how many, seriously, like maybe 3 weeks ago. Maybe it could have even been a little bit longer than that. These are things that have been coming up all year. If I'm seeing this, you damn well better believe that Kellen Sampson and the rest of the assistants on the Houston staff saw it, and they just like absolutely obliterated and torched it.
Another thing I wonder, Sam, his minutes, as I look through his game log, his minutes never played a whole lot. I wonder if he got gassed early in that game and had trouble recovering because, there was no whistles. We had the back-to-back timeouts. Like we went to timeout, shot a free throw, went to timeout again because there wasn't a whistle for the first 18 minutes. That's kind of why we had the line changes. I just wonder if playing the first 8 minutes, like even Cooper looked tired, for a couple of those final minutes. I wonder if Common having to play 8 straight minutes to start the game just completely gassed him. And maybe he was never able to fully get back in, like his legs into it, and all of that.
Well, I don't even know if it was that necessarily. And this is where I'll give Houston a ton of credit. It's fucking gassing playing Houston.
Oh, sure.
Like they're a tough team to deal with. You know what I mean? Yeah. They just are really hard. They're really tough. They're physical. They're strong. Let's at least spend a minute on some of their prospects, right? Like I've been a little bit higher, I think, on JoJo Tugler than most this year. Tugler was a plus 15 in this game. Like he was fantastic. So many extra possessions. He had 5 offensive rebounds. He had 4 blocks, a couple of which were just like massive. He had that huge putback dunk at the end. Look, he has no offensive role in the NBA. He has like no offensive role. I don't know what it is. I don't know what to do with him. I had an NBA scout friend tell me that their comp for him was, what if Kenneth Faried actually defended? And I was like, okay, I don't think he's that level rebounder yet, but like I can see that world, right? Do you think that player's valuable in today's NBA? So it's kind of my question.
My immediate reaction to that comment was, even so, does Kenneth Faried make it on the court in today's NBA? Like, I don't know. I mean, the scary thing with Tugler is it truly is like, what is he going to do offensively? Where do you put him? What do you do with him? I mean, to be clear, I have him like mid-second round right now still, just because the defense is so good. And at some point, the value of just taking him and seeing if you can develop makes it worth it. But the offense is really scary.
Yeah. Like the positive comparison here, like if you're trying to make like a positive point of comparison, is can he be Jared Vanderbilt?
Sure.
Right. Yeah. Like that's what you're hoping for is, maybe like more of a center Vanderbilt as opposed to like a perimeter Vanderbilt, but I don't know. I love him. I think probably should go back and like try and figure out what he is off on offense, especially since I'm sure he'll be like $1 million player at Houston next year. But I'm like genuinely very interested in him as a player for sure.
Yep.
Miles Uzon did not play well in that game. He was really like the guy that just, it felt like struggled for Houston yesterday. Only 7 points on 10 shots, turned it over a couple of times, got beat a couple of times by Concanipple early in the game as well. Defensively, just, wasn't his best.
No, it wasn't. Still interesting player though. And I like the creativity with his floater. And I think he even showed that a little bit in this game. That was probably the only thing he showed. I think he had at least one in the second half, but not his best performance. The nice thing for him is we get him on an even bigger stage on Monday night.
I have no idea what to do with J1 Roberts. I love the idea of what he is and what he's about. And part of me is just like, I feel like he'd be good to have in your organization in some respect. I just don't know if I see like any NBA skill set, unfortunately. Like he's not an amazing finisher around the basket. Great defender, really good rebounder. I just don't totally know if there's an NBA fit there. And then LJ Cryer is just small, right? Like it's, he can average 16 a game. It's just hard to, make that guy fit on an NBA court when he's 6 foot tall.
Yeah. Those guys are tough, because it's like, what is the overriding characteristics that make smaller guards work in the NBA? Which ones do? And that's, I don't know that I have a great answer for it, and it's
I think the first one, for what it's worth, is like strength and physicality.
So that's where I've gotten to as well, in terms of the ones I kind of like. And that's why I know you were big on this guy. I think this guy's had a good quality season as a backup guard, Jamal Shed. Like Jamal Shed is just jacked. And because of that, again, because the NBA is a physical league, Jamal Shed is able to hold his line on drives to the rim and get there. He's able to hold his line defensively and not get completely cooked whenever you get a bad matchup or whatever. Obviously, there's some that it's just the height is going to be an issue, but Cryer doesn't stick out the same way physically. I always use Marcus Sasser as an example for me, where it's just like the first time he stepped on the court for the Pistons, I was like, oh my gosh, he's so small. And you've seen actually Detroit almost go away from him, and it's a new front office, but like they took him in the first round and they've kind of acquired talent over him, even though he can still provide stuff. It's almost like an 11th man. Like they almost fall into being fifth guards. You know what I mean, Sam? Like, okay, somebody's out tonight. We need you to come get some buckets because so-and-so is missing the game.
And I'm sure you feel the same way I do, that like Sasser is a real level ahead of Cryer.
Oh, yeah.
Like he's an overall player.
Agreed. Yeah, that's my point, though, is like Sasser's the 11th man on a playoff team this year and only gets minutes when somebody's hurt. And even then, really all he does, and not all, but like it is valuable, but he comes in and just gets some buckets and provides value that way. It's like it's a very negative defensive impact. And he can't really create. Like that's the biggest thing with these guys as well, is like, can you create for your teammates? Can you break down the defense in a way that gets your teammates shots also?
Yeah.